In this video, even more unusual camera angles that are not at all common, and hopefully the point of this video will be to understand from a different point of view how I do wood turning. So stay tuned. So first step is to mount the blank, and for that I like to bring down the speed, and then that should be good enough. Now this blank is quite out of round, out of balance, but let's see, let's bring the speed up gradually. So 1200 rpm. This is spindle gouge. So the way I like to approach the timber with the spindle gouge, if I'm chewing out the outside, is so first start by rolling the tool. The flute now is facing 12 o'clock, but I want to roll it so now it's facing around 10 o'clock, and I drop down the handle slightly, and you can see how it works. Quite effortlessly. I can do the same with the ball gouge. This is 1/2 inch diameter or 12 mil. So if I want to true up the bottom, you can see how uneven it is. I like to use the left wing. So I'm closing now the flute at 930 roughly. I'm raising the handle slightly higher, and I just slightly go in, and you can see that works. Nice and simple. So this is true. Now if I mark the very center of the blank, that little white dot in the middle, so when I'm placing my tool, either spindle gouge or ball gouge, 1/2 inch diameter steel, I want to be cutting roughly at that center line or slightly above it. So when I'm now dropping the handle down, this is spindle gouge. So I like to put my hand on the tool rest and just squeeze your fingers together, and using the left wing, this part here, to squeeze into the wood. You see that works lovely. Do that again with the ball gouge. And if I want to do a shear cut or push cut into the middle, so now I have a nice smooth place to ride the bevel. And I'll actually bring down the speed. So now it's running at 500 rpm. So you can see how shaving, what type of shaving is produced. And if I grab a spindle gouge with more pointier edge, and nice and gently. So the speed isn't everything, so you don't have to have a big speed in order to get a nice clean cut, as you can see here. I hope this is nice and clean here. There is a few burnish marks from the tool, but it's nice and clean without any tear out here. Hopefully you can see a little bit more roughed surface, because I use the left wing of both of the gouges, and that is more of a scraper sort of action. Now talking about scraper, I have here my refiner. I'll raise the rest, so at the center line, which I hope you can see, I want to have the tool tilted down, and if I raise the handle, so this now top of the scraper and the surface I'm scraping here is less than 90 degrees. You can see I'm way below the center line, so I need to raise the rest up. So now do that again, and now in the position of proper position of the scraper, you can see at the center line or slightly above it. So again, the speed is 500 RPM, just to show you. That the tool will work also, and again, it's a quite decent surface. But now I'll bring it back. Actually, what I'll do first is true up the top so I can bring the speed a little bit more up. So now I want to true up this top portion here. So again, I'm using spindle gouge. This time I'm using right wing, and I want to close the flute to around 2 o'clock, raise the handle a little bit higher so it's almost level, and I slightly push it in until I hear more, how should I say, more homogeneous sound. So it's not interchanging, but it's more smooth. Hopefully you hear the difference. And I can do that with the ball gouge as well. So while I have it in my hand, I can true up the diameter here. A little bit more. So again, back to the bottom of this plate or a bowl, you can see the little white dot in the middle, and again I want to have scraper tilted down so the handle end is higher than the cutting edge here, and the best way to see that is that the surface of the top of the scraper and the surface you are scraping here is less than 90 degrees. So if I keep the handle level or the blade level, this will be 90 degrees, and if I drop the handle down, this is now over 90 degrees, and you will have a catch. So when this goes around, it will bite at one point and drag you with it. So always keep that negative angle here from top of the scraper to the surface you are scraping, especially on end grain portion here where we have this is cross grain work, by the way. So on this we have a lot more end grain than side grain. Here it's all side grain, but when we get to the side of the bowl, it's more end grain than side grain. So again, I want to adjust the tool rest height, so when I lift the handle, you can see now I'm below the center line. So raise the rest, and again tilt up the handle, and now I'm at the center line or slightly above it. And now I can bring up the speed a little bit more, 1547 RPM. So I hope you can see that's really nice surface, really clean. So we need a tenon. Now, how we mark accurately the tenon sides here, especially the foot, which will be more of a decorative foot. Now, these are set to my step jaws. So these step jaws were designed by my mentor Richard Raffen, and they were built by VICMARK. So VICMARK VM100 chuck with these step jaws. Now, these calipers are set. You can see the jaws are almost closed. There is maybe 1.5 mm gap here all the way around, as you can see. So I mark or set up my calipers to the outside diameter like so. So now I know that if I make a tenon this size or a foot and I grab it with that step jaws, it won't leave any marks. Now what you want to do is, or I should better say, and what not to do is touch with the right leg of the calipers wood, because it will throw it out of your hands. So you have to be really careful that you only touch with the left leg here. Now the way this works is, first I'm going to get it wrong. So if I mark it here and I highlight it with the pencil, you can see left leg is here marking, but the right leg is way off here. So as you see here, the left leg is in contact with the wood, and we have a difference here. So the right leg isn't matching this line here. So we have to move this left leg a little bit over, so these two will match, or the scribe line will match from left leg to right leg. So let's see here. And now I hope you can see here, I'm just highlight it. So here I'm scribing, but also the right leg now is matching that scribe line. So now I know that this is perfect diameter that I need for my chuck. Now I want to set that foot in or make it protruding out. So I have two methods of doing that. I can use the ball gouge and step it out. So using left wing, or the other way is the fun way, and that is using scraper. I like to cut the tenon with a spindle gouge, so I'm dropping the handle down and I'm raising the handle up to pivot the edge into the wood, and that makes a really nice clean tenon here. So I just want to remove this little corner here. Let's make in this area a nice and simple OG profile. Now this method I saw from Jimmy Clues, and I've used it for years, and it's really the easiest way to cut a perfect OG. So first this area here, so from your diameter to the foot here, you want to divide into thirds. So that should be roughly that. So mark this one closest to the foot, 1/3, a little bit stronger so you can see it properly. And also here on the diameter or on the thickness, you want to set sort of a reference point. So I'm going to put it roughly 5-6 mil from the top, so roughly around here. So first cut, what needs to be done is from this line here to this line here in a straight line. So just remove all this corner away. Now the fastest way to remove the timber from this area to this area here, so remove this corner here, is using the left wing of the gouge. So the way I like to do this is I position the flute to face, let's say, 10 o'clock. I drop the handle down so it's between my waist height and, let's say, level position. So, and I just use the left wing, like I said, can see how it peels nicely and efficiently and quick as well. I can also do that with a spindle gouge. So again, the flute is facing around 10 o'clock. I drop the handle down. So if I clean up the flute, I hope to be able to show you where the shaving is coming from. So this is how that looks a little further out. Now after removing this corner here, so now we have a point A and point B connected in a straight line, sort of. From experience on this size of the plate, in the middle here, I want to have it dished out. So reverse curve, around 5 mil here at the deepest part. Now if I do a push cut from this end, it's not that easy to do, but it's much easier to do it going against the grain, but we still have enough timber to make the final pass nice and clean. So again, bowl gouge. So I hope you can see how I move my body. If not, I'm going to reposition the camera. So I'll do that again. So I'm moving my body instead of just my hands. So the gouge is nicely tucked in, up against my body. I'm holding it here at the ferrule, and my left hand is just on top of the tool. And I can see clearly what's happening here at the horizon. Now the next task is from the foot here up to this point here, divide this into half. So that should be roughly around here. So mark that, and all you want to do now is connect this to this point in a nice subtle curve here. And again, I can use a spindle gouge, bowl gouge, whichever tool you have. And you should be able to see nice OG shape here. Again, I can use a bowl gouge. Or I can use scraper. And also use it as a shear scraper. And just to show you the surface, really nice and clean. It hardly needs much sanding. So again, this method I saw from Jimmy Clue's excellent method that I've used in my work for many years and just works beautifully every single time. So you can adapt this to any kind of shape and size. Now I need to sort the bottom of the bowl. Again, scraper. Now this time what I'm going to do is just pull the burr. So now this is nice pulled burr. And again, a lot of you ask about this notch here. So it's nice way of getting the detail done nice and quick, but also you can shear scrape into different details. So let's say I want to do a bead here, and also on the other side, like so. And now I just want to slightly go on this inside, move the shaving so you can actually see what's happening. And now, since this is slightly cut out or notched, I can raise it to shear scraper mode and get right in the bottom of the bead. And that is nice and clean detail. Just a little bit more here. So really nice. And also what I'll do is just do this area. So now you'll see this is really nice and clean, really nice crisp corner here. Now just to double check that I'm only resting at this part of the foot, which I am. 180 grit. That's done. Really nice. So just to show you the surface after sanding, so you can see all the nice crisp details. So you want to have those details, because if you sand away, let's say, the corner, so it's not as crisp as maybe here, then it looks just odd. So now this can go in a chuck, and just make sure you don't have any debris inside. And we'll use a light pressure, doesn't need much to hold this. And it's running nice and true. Let me show you that. So I hope you can see when I spin it that it runs really nice and true, or true enough for what we do. And also I hope you can see, I've adjusted the camera, so hopefully you can see a little gap between the jaws. So these are now gripping in a perfect circle. All the tenon is nicely compressed, but it won't leave a mark because it's perfect circle. So if it's bigger gap, then the corners will dig in of the jaws, each jaw will dig in, and then you will have mark. Now, I know that a lot of turners having trouble trimming up the top or the bottom, doesn't really matter. So if there is bigger uneven surface, like maybe here, so if I turn on the lathe, you can see how much there is wood to remove, so it's nice and clean. So the way I like to do this, and I'll show you a few different ways. So again, closing the flute so it's around 9:30 o'clock, raising the handle slightly higher. So now I'll use this left wing of the gouge as a scraper. So just go in, like so. And usually I would put my left hand on a tool rest like this, and just now squeeze the tool in, and as you can see, that works beautifully. Now what you can also do, so that was sort of a scraping cut with the left wing. Now what you can do, and that depends on a type of the grind that you have, but if you open up the gouge slightly and you rotate your hips to the right, so now what I'll use is this area here. So let me just clean up the flute. So this area just left of the point of the gouge, but I'll open up the gouge slightly, so around 10 o'clock, and again I'll use that slightly left of the point. Also works. And also you can use spindle gouge like that, or you can use all the left wing like this. So really all that matters is of the personal preference here. Now from this point, now you can do a shear cut to the middle, or you can continue on using scrapers. So in this case I'll just use a scraper. Works beautifully. Show you from a different angle. I can't go too much to the right of the lathe because there is a wall there, but you can see here how I place my left hand on the scraper and raise the handle higher. Also show you this from a wider view. How scrapers can be versatile tool. So now we have nice clean blank, the top. So now we can do pretty much whatever we want on the top area here. Now what I want to do here, maybe a bead. So I'm using spindle gouge. So always start with the flute slightly to the left. So now it's facing around 10 o'clock, and I'll be using just left of the point of the gouge. So this area here, to roll a bead to the left. And you always have to rotate your right hand or the gouge itself to follow up the cut, because if you stuck in one position you will cut this area of the gouge here and it will skid over. So that's nice and clean, so I'll do the same on the right. Something like that, I think should be okay. Just want to extend this so I can finish up the bead on this side. I think that should be okay. And now the fun bit of hollowing out. So I want to get rid of the screw chuck hole first. And we can drill a depth hole. So somewhere, I think in this area should be okay. So now we can use a spindle gouge. So always start so you have a single point of entry like this. It doesn't skate over, and if I open it up too much then it will skate. As you can see, it likes to pull towards the rim. So always start with the flute closed, handle higher, so you can always have nice entry point. So now as we're in the wood, open the gouge slightly and move forward. And I can use ball gouge. Also raise the handle up, close the flute. Once you're in the wood, open the gouge, drop the handle down, move forward. And now I'll also bring down the speed. Let's go again 500 RPM. So once you're in the wood, Open the gouge slightly, drop the handle down. Now since it's running slower, you have to slow down your feed rate. And these are the shavings I'm getting, so pigtail shavings. And again, just to show you with the spindle gouge. Now I would not use spindle gouge for deeper hollowing. Again, raise the handle up so it's level. Close the flute. Once you have a single point of entry like this, open the gouge, drop the handle down, and move forward. Now I want to do the rim here, and I want to have this area sort of following almost the outside line of the bowl and finish up nicely towards the bottom of the bead. So I want to have enough tool rest on the left so I can place my hand on the tool rest, so I can have the fingers behind the cut because it will get a little bit thinner. And always leave yourself enough wood thickness here for one last pass, let's say, blending everything nicely. And always for the last pass you want to go slow and steady, and I will sharpen the gouge actually. So now fresh gouge, freshly sharpened. So this area is thin enough. Now that feels like it's following the outside quite nicely. Now here the notch on the refiner will come really in handy to shear scrape right into bottom of this bead. But I want to shear scrape like this, so there is much less wooden metal or blade in contact with the wood. And just finish off. Back with the refiner. So that's a really nice crisp corner. Just blending a few areas. Some shear scraping. Okay, so that feels like a good curve. Here I'll use again refiner. just raise the rest slightly more. Now this bottom curve doesn't meet this curve very pleasant. There is a little too much harsh of a transition, so what I'll do is just lightly extend that down. Now I feel I have to push the scraper in order to scrape nicely, which is something you don't want to do, so I'll hone the edge. So remove the remnants of the old burr. And put the fresh on. So I find the bevel like this, raise it a few degrees and just go all the way around. Now that's much better. And much better transition. Let's see the surface before sanding. Yeah, that's really nice. So a few burnish marks, hope you can see it here, but those will be gone in just a few seconds. For the two final grits, since I have a really tight and nice crisp corner here, I like to use paper, sandpaper on paper backing, so I can sand really tight into corner. So I'll show you that in just a few seconds until I get this bulk of the sanding down. So I like to, you can see, you can much easily make a crease like this and sand right into a corner. And I'll just grab a shaving just to burnish it off a little bit. So that should be it. Yeah, that's really nice. Here it is. So still needs a little bit of wiping off to do, but you can see a really nice bead detail here, the bottom. Really nice piece of walnut. So hopefully you like again this little different point of view wood turning video. Hopefully it will help you out understand how I do wood turning from a little bit different angle, which is not that common. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.